Well, while the e-hailing market expands, vehicle production is at risk of slowing, while thousands of jobs in the industry may also be lost. If please fall on deaf ears by next week this time, Amsa's long steel business will have closed, having a dire impact on the automotive market. Last week, we spoke to NACA CEO Renai Motilal weighing in on this. And this week, Toyota and VW have added their voices to this issue, imploring government to do what it can to help delay the closure of Amsa's Newcastle plant. David Furlonger, editor-at-large for the Financial Mail, joins us with an update. Thank you so much for your time,
Pleasure.
David. It is 7 days before the closure of ArcelorMittal's long steel business. How much can be done in a week? And I guess that's also a question of between now and when this announcement was made, how much progress has been made on negotiations?
Okay, in terms of the announcement, it is about 15 months since ArcelorMittal first suggested they might close.
Yeah.
And you're right, 2 weeks ago, or just over 2 weeks ago, before they said they were closing at the end of this month, there have been intensive discussions with government, with a number of ministers, also with the motor industry. And at a conference yesterday, there was optimism amongst many industry leaders that it's not going to happen at the end of next week, that at least there will be a bridging period. It's not clear yet what is going to happen, but they believe that it's not as desperate as it might have been a week or so ago. There is a sense that there was a meeting 2 days ago between industry leaders and Amsa.
Yes.
And coming out of that, Amsa asked the industry if it could give a collated, a total, not order, but an idea of how much the industry might need over the next 12 months. And without saying so, the industry hopes that that might be an indication that its request for Amsa to keep going for a little while, to give it a year's buffer stocks, to give it time to find new suppliers, might be part of the solution.
David, it's interesting because it seems that industry players are not urging the company to not close it, but they're urging the company to delay it, to at least give the industry 12 months. Is this emphasizing that there are much deeper structural issues that actually cannot be implemented, where there would be already a positive impact, at least in the next 12 months?
The buffer stocks is the immediate solution.
Yeah.
They definitely do not want ArcelorMittal to stop its supplies.
Yes.
And remember, this is long steel. This isn't just all the steel. It's a speciality steel which is designed to go into vehicle components.
Yes.
And remember that the motor companies themselves don't buy it, or if they do, it's very little. Almost all of it goes into automotive components. And it's interesting, the balance there, because the motor industry accounts for only 8% of steel from, I was going to say ISCOR, from ArcelorMittal. Toyota takes 60% of that. So 40% is across the other 6 major manufacturers. And when I say Toyota, I mean its component suppliers. Now, there was the story a few days ago that VW and Toyota had written separately to the minister. VW says it hasn't. VW is relatively, or would be relatively, unaffected by this because its suppliers get very little steel from ArcelorMittal. But Toyota gets 60% of its components through there.
Sure. All right. So if this is delayed then for 1 year, what actually would the car makers, and particularly Toyota, be looking at? What alternatives would they be looking at?
Remember, they are all part of global groups with global supply chains. They would prefer to keep their supplier in South Africa. So yes, a year's buffer stocks would give them time to look for other suppliers. They would prefer Arcelor to continue to be their supplier. But 12 months would give them time to look into their parent company's supply chains. Remembering that some of the vehicles made in South Africa are not made anywhere else. The Hilux here goes, or most of them go to Europe. The overwhelming majority of Ford Rangers go to Europe. So there would have to be special homologation, but not just that. Any stuff coming from overseas would have to go through the quality and the SA Bureau standards, all those homologation things here.
Yes.
So it's not just a question of saying we've got another source, it's got to go through all those quality processes.
I mean, just looking at, I mean, you talk about, you know, some of the companies that some cars are just made strictly in South Africa. And of course, that also feeds into the localization efforts. Has there been any investigation in terms of what this could do to that localization effort, particularly looking at the automotive sector that really also hasn't been able to reach the required target?
Yeah. When the Automotive Production and Development Program was finalized in 2018, and it only came into effect in 2021, but it was based on figures in 2018.
Yeah.
At that stage, local content, that's the average local content in South African-made vehicles, was 40%. And by 2035, the aim is to raise that to 60%. But we're already down from 40% to 38%.
Yes.
We're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So if we lose steel, we're probably going to go down into the mid-30s, maybe even lower. And if you look at the overriding ideas of that production program, to get more localization creates more employment. Now, as René Moutilal, I'm sure, told you last week, that if we lose that ArcelorMittal steel, we will lose this year 16,000 jobs in the components industry and 100,000 jobs across other sectors of South African economy which supply the motor industry. So localization, no, it's not going to happen. It's actually going to go completely the wrong direction if we lose ArcelorMittal. Plus, of course, you're looking at 25% added cost to imported steel.
So it's just a very, very deep and harsh ripple.
So I think government understands this, and bearing in mind that the motor industry is the jewel in its crown, in its industrialization crown. Now, Andrew Kirby of Toyota said again yesterday that South Africa is actually de-industrializing at the moment. If it's going to re-industrialize, the motor industry has to be at the core of that. So they can't let Arcelor go.
Oh, all right. Well, we will definitely keep a close eye on this, particularly in terms of what comes out next week. Thank you so much for your time, David. That was Financial Mail's Editor-at-Large, David Furlonger.